Welcome to my channel. This is an indication of some of the things that I cover on a regular basis in my videos. If you haven't already subscribed, please feel free to do so, and don't forget to click the little bell so that you'll get notified of future videos. Please feel free to share my videos on your social media, and I hope you enjoy the video which follows. Hello everybody, I hope you can hear me. I'm a fair distance away from the camera. I'm back at the community garden, and this is going to be my new bed. I've got a larger one this year, 4 foot wide, 10 foot long, and the only thing I plan to plant in it is my potatoes. Right now, no soil in it. Excuse me. I'm working on that today. We're back, as I said, at the community garden. As you know, it is at the Campobello Lodge Seniors Home. We have a few restrictions that we didn't have last year because of the COVID-19 virus. If any of the residents are out, we can't go anywhere near them. If they're over on their deck there enjoying a barbecue or whatever. It tickled my throat. But other than that, we're welcome to use the garden once again this year. I plan to plant my potatoes today. Well, I have my scarecrow up, and I have put a good layer of the organic pro-mix. And the bed is a lot larger than I thought it was. 4 by 10 is a big bed, also quite deep. So what I have decided to do is I've put my potatoes, as you can see, on top of the pro-mix. There was going to be 2 rows, but there was so many of the russet variety left over that I've put a less populated row down the center. I'm going to cover it with partially composted straw. Last year they had straw gardens here for people to grow in, and it worked very well. I'll show you here. They've got them set up again this year with new ones. But over there in the distance you might be able to see last year's piled up and sort of composting. Well, I'm going to put a layer of it on top of the potatoes, and when they come up through it, which they will, I will add more until I reach probably the top of the bed here with it, to prevent them from sunburning down below as they grow. But I think I've never done this before. Walter over in Nova Scotia, unfortunately Walter doesn't put up videos anymore. I really enjoyed his garden videos. He grew his potatoes in just, I don't know if it was hay or straw, every year. He just laid them on the sod on the ground and covered them thickly with the hay or straw, whatever he was using, and got a great harvest out of it every year. So we won't know until late August or September what I actually get here, but that's what I'm going to do. My original plan was to go buy more to fill the bed up, and wow, it would take quite a bit of money to fill that bed. So we'll go with the composted straw. I'll show you what that looks like when I get it down there. Well, there are the potatoes planted and covered with partially composted straw. So what I've actually done is created another Ruth Stout type bed, like the several that I have home in my own garden. Fingers crossed that it works. I've got to tell somebody not to discard that nice pile of composting straw, because when my potatoes come up through this, I will certainly be adding a lot more. And that this has already started to compost, I suspect with rainstorms and whatever, or just watering the garden this summer, it will also provide some nutrients for the potatoes. Another good thing about it, though, is you don't have to water as frequently. This is a gorgeous spot up here, sunny and lovely, but you have to water frequently. If you have a lot of sunny days in a row, these raised beds dry out very quickly. But with the hay on top, straw I guess it is on top, they shouldn't dry out anywhere near as fast, so they won't have to be watered as frequently. Anxious to see how this works out. I don't know if I mentioned or not, there's 5 pounds each of Yukon Gold potatoes and russet, the baking potato. And I normally don't cut my potatoes, but last night I looked at them and there was a lot of nice sprouts starting, and any of them that had sprouts on both ends I cut in half and let the cut area dry overnight before I put them in the ground. So that's probably why I had so many russets. I had to put some down the middle. We will have a look around at a couple other things here at the community garden. I don't remember if this was just a strawberry patch last year or if some of those have been planted this spring, but I see blossom buds anyway. They haven't opened up yet, but it's going to be a nice patch of strawberries later on, whoever owns that bed. This person planted a lot of garlic last fall. I think the space in the far end there for growing a little bit of something else, but you're going to have a nice crop of garlic anyway. There aren't too many people that are gardening here yet. The beds all seem to have been prepared, and I see a bed off to my left there that's been planted. It has little markers and maybe some radishes are up. This is the bed that the nursing home had last year with herbs in it. I see some garlic, I think, that has come up off to the left, a nice bunch of chives, a couple of sage plants that are looking good, a couple of rosemary, and down in this end there is a thyme plant there. So a lot of the hardier herbs overwintered for them. They can add some of the annuals now and fill it back up again. Well, that's it for this segment of this week's video. I'll finish it off later in the week with some clips of what's going on in my home garden, but I have to stop and give you another look at the wonderful view from the community garden, Eastport, Maine in the distance, and that is Passamaquoddy Bay, the water. Fingers crossed for a good year for the plums. Couldn't put another blossom on that plum tree. And there are two trees close to it that are just basically pollinators. They don't really produce plums, but every time I walk by that plum tree, all I hear are the bees in it. So just wild bees. If there's a beekeeper here on the island, it isn't very close to me. Someone told me last year that there is actually somebody here who keeps bees, but I think it's too far away from me for the bees to arrive in this area. But that plum tree is looking the best it's ever looked. We haven't had any real frost since it started to bloom, and it is being well worked by the pollinators. I saw a hummingbird in it earlier this morning, and yesterday there were several hummingbird moths. If you've ever seen a hummingbird moth, they always fascinate me. They look more like a bird than a moth, but they sort of do the same thing that the hummingbirds do. They sort of hang around the blossom, drinking the nectar out of it, I guess, but I assume they also get pollen on themselves and pollinate the next flower that they go to. And the Asian pear tree is in full bloom. The three little cherry trees next to it, well, they're blooming out. Two of them have got quite a few blossoms. The largest one has got a lot of blossom buds that are really starting to turn white on the end, but they aren't fully out yet. But between the three shrubs, I'm not showing it to you, am I? Between the three shrubs, I've got the most blossoms that I've seen in the years that I've had them anyway. The one I'm sure of the name of is the one that's closest here. That is called Juliet. They're all in the series that they call the Romance series. More a shrub than a cherry tree. They only grow, well, practically at their full height. They're now 8 to 10 feet tall or so. If they actually had cherries, that would make it easy to harvest them. So far, the production has been mediocre. Just a brief glimpse in the door of the hoop house, greenhouse. Today is the first day that my tall, spindly tomatoes are not under any of the row cover. They've been under row cover now for a week, and it's been a cloudy morning, but it's supposed to clear and be quite nice this afternoon. Plans are to plant them in the long bed next to where they are right now tomorrow. It's already got weeds coming up in it. I've got to take those out before I put them in, but there are a dozen. I think I said it one other time that there were 10, but I miscounted evidently. There are a dozen of them, and they will have to be planted, I'm thinking sideways. These beds aren't deep enough to put them down far enough, so I'll sort of dig a trench and lay them down in it sideways with the top end sticking out Always worked well in the past. Anyway, we'll see how well it works this summer. They're all the same variety, Cole, which is a very early, short season variety tomato. And they've already had a few blossoms, 2 or 3 I've seen have had blossoms on them. I haven't checked to see if anything pollinated them yet or not. If you remember a few videos back, my shipment of 1-year-old seedling trees arrived, and they had been in cold storage, and for a long time I thought some of them, just are not going to make it. But I had 5 different varieties, and all 5 are looking good right now. The bur oak here is the one that's the closest to having its leaves out, but the rest of them all have buds that are swelling. I have hackberry, black locust, eastern red bud, and honey locust. So if I don't kill them, it won't be their fault if they die, I guess is what I'm trying to say. They all survived and are coming out nicely. My plans are to grow them in these bags, gallon bags, this summer, and I'll heal them in the greenhouse and plant them out next year. And next to it, what you're seeing there, if I can zoom back, are my chestnut trees that I grew from seed last year, so they're also 1-year seedlings. I had 4 that survived. 3 are looking very good. One's got leaves on it there on the end. And the tiniest one that I didn't know if it had made it or not, it does have a couple of tiny buds coming down inside quite close to the ground. So all 4 of those made it through the winter. It was 24 hours later, and the tomato plants have all been planted. I actually planted them yesterday, though. Last evening I got thinking about it. Well, it's a nice cool evening. I'll give them another chance to get sort of established and well watered in before we get any hotter weather today. The day has started off overcast, but it's clearing now, and it's not supposed to be a hot day, just getting up into the low 20s, but in the hoop house that is quite different. It'll get up into the 30s in here. I did lay them down sort of on their side. The root mass is probably 8 to 10 inches out beyond where the plant is coming up through. And they weren't as straight as this last night, but they've straightened right up. And I can see 2, at least, I guess, that have blossoms on them. So I'll have to go around and sort of tickle the blossoms, because I don't know if there's been any bees or anything in here yet. But they are a very early variety. A determinate variety, which isn't supposed to grow all that tall. I had problem with them last year, though. With determinate varieties, they often tell you not to prune off the sucker growth because it'll all produce tomatoes. Well, they got too heavy, and I didn't have proper support for them, and they were falling over in here. So there are 12 plants this year. I intend to remove the sucker growth. And I have these sort of whirly things here, if I can get one out and show it to you. I've had these for a number of years. They're steel with paint or a plastic or something covering on them, but they tend to work quite well with determinate varieties. They're not tall enough for the indeterminate ones. Although I do have one that's 5 feet tall, I guess, would work for that. But I plan to use those, and I also have a few tomato cages around the property, square ones that, heavens, I don't know, I probably bought those back in the 70s or early 80s or something. Haven't used them on tomatoes for a while, but they're always down over a plant somewhere that I'm trying to protect so that I won't mow it off or step on it. So I plan to use that kind of support rather than the fish line and the clips that I've used in the past with the indeterminate varieties. There's one of them hanging down there, if you can see it or not, but I left them just in case I did need them, but I don't plan to use them anyway. Well, this is a new bed that I started in the space between where my garlic and spinach is growing and the round strawberry bed on the other end of it. It's about 4 foot wide, the same as the garlic bed is. It's a bit longer. It might be closer to 5 feet longer, I guess. It's whatever the space was in between there. And I'm going to plant my beans today, the 26th of May. I'm growing 2 varieties. One is called Lewis, and it's an open pollinated heirloom variety from Annapolis Seeds. It says it's heavy yields of 6-inch dark green pods, crispy and with lots of flavor, good flavor. And the other variety is a yellow wax bean, commercially available, not open pollinated or anything, but it's called Top Notch, a golden wax bean. I like to have both. I think they look nice mixed together when you cook them. So I think I'll get 2 of those 5-foot rows of each variety. I know there's enough of the wax beans anyway. Hopefully there's enough of the other heirloom variety, the Lewis beans. Start with the Lewis first anyway. Oops. Would be enough if I didn't throw them on the ground. Guess I only dropped one. A little bit left over. I can plant them a little thicker, I guess. And there are even more of the waxed beans, so I'll plant those thicker anyway. The only thing I'm a bit concerned about, this is the one bed that something continually walks through it. Not a dog track, too small for that. Could be a neighborhood cat, porcupine, raccoon, something like that. It was full of those tracks until a few minutes ago. I took a rake and smoothed it out again. This is made entirely of that organic Pro Mix. An expensive bed, but to get them started I think it's good. It's sheet mulched down below, so by next year the cardboard that I used to sheet mulch with will be completely disintegrated, and the sod down below the cardboard will have composted. So more a regular garden bed in a year's time. Well, I won't make you watch me plant the wax beans. It's the same procedure, only on the other side of the bed. Well, I wasn't going to show you the finished product, but there they are all planted. What I wanted to come back and tell you, though, I did a little further reading on the yellow wax bean seed packet, and they're also an open pollinated variety. And right beside the bed that I just planted in, directly in front of my garlic, is this lovely vole hole. Miserable things are everywhere. I have ordered a product that was suggested to me by one of my subscribers, ammonium carbonate or bicarbonate. Evidently is used in baking. I have never heard tell of it used here in baking, and supposedly has a very strong smell of ammonia. And if you put a teaspoonful down each hole, it encourages the voles to move on. So I can hardly wait for that to arrive so I can give it a try. I'm up at my roadside garden, which is basically a wild garden. Mostly things that I planted, but I've just let them go wild. And some of them were actually wild plants that I bought from a breeder of wild plants. This is in the arum family, I think. Anyways, what we call Jack in the pulpit. And this is the pulpit, and there's Jack in his pulpit in there. I had 3 of them, and over the years 2 of them have vanished and nothing has multiplied. But this is the largest I've ever seen, this one. It's got to be over a foot tall. Well, I guess if you go to, a foot and a half if you go to the top of the tallest leaf here. But, looking very nice. It's followed by a red berry, which in theory, if you leave them alone, should multiply, but so far it has not happened, and I've had them for many years, so I don't think it's going to happen. We'll close this video off. I'll give you a look at my Japonica, which is almost in full bloom. Still a lot of buds there to open yet. And hopefully I've very cleverly photographed it so that you can't see the thatch of weeds that it's growing in. It's in my ignored perennial border. One of the things that's surviving and looking very nice, and I look forward to seeing it every spring. Well, that will close this video down for this week. I'll get it uploaded hopefully for the weekend. Thank you very much for watching.